URC round number 3, and we finally get a week where there's some solid wins for the away teams more than the home teams. I think it was 4 away wins, 3 home, and a draw. I've seen 3 of the games in full. The rest of them I've kind of caught up on the highlights. We'll go through some of the results, some of the stats, where does this leave the teams on the log, and who are they facing in the next round. And you guys can let me know your thoughts, especially on the games that I kind of haven't seen in full. I try to catch up on as much as I can, but there you go. The first one, which was Ospreys and the Sharks. Remember, Ospreys went into this one unbeaten. They were at home, and Gareth Anscombe's boot has been eerily accurate the entire season of 2 games up until this point. And yeah, they hadn't been kind of setting the world alight with kind of try-scoring, flourishing stuff, but they've been very solid. And the Sharks at that point winless, and yet it's they who score the 2 tries to Ospreys 1, but the score more to do with the kicking, to be fair. And that man Chamberlain with 3 drop goals, goodness gracious me, he gets man of the match. There are tries to Ward and Potgieter on 42 and 59 for Ospreys is a late one. To Thomas on 74, which kind of maybe looks like they need to get back into the game. But yeah, to be fair, the game was probably pretty much done and dusted by that point. So yeah, what did I write down when I watched this game? That Gareth Anscombe's boot was in play early, and it had been reliable thus far. Pienaar, interestingly, missed a penalty at one point, but he was like getting line breaks. Now, he's not that quick because he's getting on old Ruan Pienaar, but when he got a line break from his own 22, you knew he's never going length of the field. But kind of good to see him at least have that nous. There were some handbags. There was like a mini kick from the ground from one of the Ospreys guys, like putting his foot out against one of the Sharks players. I think they wanted to maybe review it, the Sharks guys, but the ref was kind of like, wow, there's nothing really in it. But again, it's one of those ones where you put your fate in the ref's hands is not always a wise move, so you should probably keep your limbs to yourself as much as you can. At halftime, it was 6-all. I wrote pretty slow stuff. I mean, the scrums seemed to be taking an age. There were a few knock-ons. It wasn't exactly free-flowing. We were trialists at that point. But second half, there was some magic, man. Chamberlain's the guy with the grubber. Andrews regathers the grubber for the Sharks, and he's the one who offloads. They get it to Ward, and man, what a try. The game did need that one. There's a bit of a spark, and it was most welcome. But the Sharks got the second one as well. That one was wide ball. I thought Ospreys maybe kicking it a wee bit too much, but maybe that's the game plan. So yeah, they were having to chase the game. We saw it again. I think for some of the commentary team, maybe this is the first time they've seen this, but Chamberlain replied to a goal line dropout with like a 40-meter drop goal. Now, I saw that happen, like 4 weeks ago when the States took on Canada. Canada did a goal line dropout, and the US halfback just 40-meter drop goaled it straight back at them. And as soon as I saw that, I thought, man, this is going to be a move. And I've seen since then teams doing more variations on the dropout. Do you kick it low? Kick it low and kind of flat rather than giving it hang time. Kick it to the sides. I mean, if someone can kick a 40-meter drop goal back at you, that's a fair bit of skill, although without the kind of pressure of someone really closing you down because the opposition defense is usually miles away. But it's maybe one of those unintended consequences. I always talk about when they change the laws in rugby, there's always something that's like an unintended consequence, and the drop goals in reply is definitely that. Like in league, where they stole this idea from, it's a point for a drop goal, so nobody bothers, but it's triple that in union. So it's much more kind of fair game to take the old a 3-pointer. So anyway, we'll kind of see how teams play with that tactical decision as what to do going forward. Ospreys did get that late try. Like I said, I wrote a little too late at the time. It was 24-13, and that's kind of pretty much how the game finished, barring one more kick for the Sharks. Run meters finish 401 to 481, which is actually pretty high. Possession and territory, though, the Sharks end up dominating the territory anyway, 59-41. Position a bit more even. Interestingly, the knock-ons was like 16-9. Like I mentioned, there were a lot of knock-ons in this game, and especially from the Ospreys guys. Clean break 7-1 in favour of the Sharks. So just more efficient ball in hand, man. Chamberlain, like I mentioned, 3 drop goals. Pienaar with a few clean breaks. Morris, to be fair, for Ospreys had a few big carries, but yeah, all in a losing effort. So Ospreys are 6th. They are 2-1. The Sharks get off the board. They are also 1-2, so the other way around, and they are in 13th. Ospreys are 6th. So yeah, Sharks are away to Cardiff in this week's games, and Ospreys are away to Benetton, which could be a pretty interesting game in both accounts, to be fair. So yeah, interesting times. The next one was Ulster and Benetton. I also watched this one. Someone uploaded this one to YouTube, helpfully. I think I did. By the time I watched it, I knew Ulster had won, but I couldn't remember the score because I'd kind of seen it in passing. So I went and rewatched it. So that was pretty fortunate because I hadn't really seen Ulster or any of the Italian teams in full yet. So it was kind of nice to kind of catch up. Again, it was similar to the first game in that it was a wee bit messy to start with. Like the scrum resets were taking a wee while. There was a bit of force back, kick tennis if you want to call it that, which is often the way teams kind of, I guess, get a feeling for each other early. It's a bit tentative while they've still got the gas. The penalty that broke the deadline, the deadlock, sorry, was to Benetton early, actually, 3-0. That guy Doak, though, man, I didn't know he could do the goal kicking. I can't remember when Burns went off, but he went off relatively early, didn't he? Doak ends up doing the kicking, which is, he did drop a ball early, to be fair, and Benetton dropped the ball. They missed touch. Like the errors were there. But, I wouldn't want to look at Doak's performance and focus on the one time he dropped the ball clean. He had a pretty good game, isn't he? I think this is the first time I've really seen him, this season, it's the first time I've kind of seen him properly in action, and he's been quite a pleasure to watch. Interestingly, Ulster like the tries, don't they? They don't like going for threes as much as they can. Herring almost had his first try. I think, what did they say? It was like his 200th game. It was pretty early on, but that one ends up being chalked off by the TMO. They do end up getting tries through Gilroy, 2 to Doak. So I'll talk about him being fun to watch. And 1 to Herring. He does get it on the 34th minute, but he gets his first one chalked off. Benetton just get the one in the second half through Tavuyara. But Ulster scored 2 during a yellow card. Like the Benetton guys are under a heap of pressure. They get yellow carded. And Benetton's defence held for ages, to be fair, but yeah, they couldn't be cracked by the backs eventually. The forwards. Eventually, it was the backs that got them that kind of quick fire double during the yellow card. The line out set play was one of them. Cross kick was one of them. So proper kind of nice attractive back stuff. It's 21-3 at half time. It's looking like it's going to be a pretty long day at the office. Benetton do pressure Ulster, though, in the second half. Hume gets yellow carded. Again, kind of same story, too many penalties. It leads to Benetton's try at last. So kind of both sides taking advantage of the old man advantage with the yellow card, which is often the way. Like, you want to score as many points as you can during the yellow card. So both sides, although they would have practiced defending with a man down, couldn't quite get it done. Although I think Benetton's try seemed to really fire Ulster back up, at least from my watching of it, because they were under the pump a wee bit in the second half, but it just seemed to spur them on, basically. Ulster kind of really came back strong. They got a bonus point try at the death, like I mentioned, through Doak on 78, so pretty good outing for him. All round, the stats, clean breaks 3 to zip, defenders beaten 17-9, run meters 304 to 202, so it all kind of tells a story that Ulster's dominating all the key areas of the game. Timoney has 4 defenders beaten, 14 out of 15 tackles. How many times did you hear his name called, man? He was everywhere in the game. Rutzer has 17 from 17, but yeah, man, good crowd. Seemed to be pretty good weather, and a good bonus point win for Ulster, so well done to them, because remember, Benetton going into this one were undefeated, but they are now 2-1 in 7th. They are home to the Ospreys. Ulster are one of 3 teams who are 3-0. They are second, and they are at home to the Lions, so they should be pretty big-time favourites for that one, to be honest. The next one, Leinster against Zebre, I didn't watch in full. I watched the highlights. It was always going to be a bit of a hiding on paper, although Leinster wasn't supposed to be held as close by the Dragons the week before. But yeah, man, back at home, 43 points to 7. That's a massive result, isn't it? 1 to Penny, 1 to Lama, 2 to Adam Byrne, 1 to Ed Byrne, 1 to Cronin, 1 to Kelleher. The forwards were smashing it up. Zebre do get a nice consolation one through Bruno, which is one of the tries of the game. Like, in terms of him being out in the open and just putting the hammer down like bugger it. I'll see if I can make it. He was pretty far out. Took a bit of confidence, but I mean, what did they have to lose? By the time he scored, how many points were they down? I can't even remember. It was a lot. I mean, Leinster came out of the blocks really early. The first try was on 2 minutes. The second try was about 10 minutes later. Like, they were scoring, seemingly pretty easily. They both missed the conversions over the first couple, so it was only kind of 10 points to nil. Every highlight was basically Leinster down Benetton Zebra's end. I think it was only 15-0 at half time, but yeah, it didn't really get any better as the Zebre guys seemingly started to tire. Bonus point early in the second half. Zebre had a yellow card to make matters kind of worse. Adam Burns, the cross kick to him for his second try was like, he'll never be in as much space as he was for that try. It was about as easy as it comes for a winger just to catch a ball. But I mean, the kick's still got to be on the money. Don't let me kind of diminish the value of it, but yeah, man, that just kind of tells you the story of the game. The forwards were too powerful. Leinster did concede a try, like I mentioned. When Leinster, I think, had a man down, actually. From the footage I saw, they seemed to have one guy kind of injured. But either way, Zebre took their chance. So kind of good consolation. You don't like to see a team get nilled. So kind of good for Zebre. The crowd seemed to cheer them, which was pretty good of them. I mean, possession finishes 63-37. Run meters 658 to 258. Tackles made 75 by Leinster, 183 by Zebre. Penalties conceded 9-7 with Zebre having the 9. Zebre scrum seemed to be struggling a wee bit. Yeah, all round pretty hard day at the office, to be fair. Lama, 2 clean breaks, 7 defenders beaten, gets a try, 60 run meters. Levy gets 69 run meters. Good to see that guy back. He always seems to be kind of in and out of the squad with injuries from what loosely I've followed his career. But I mean, dude, I want that guy to be fit. Gia Marioli has 21 out of 24 tackles, which in itself is a pretty big shift. Bruno finishes with 4 defenders beaten his try, but yeah, it's all about Leinster. And that one, big old bonus point win. They're 3-0. They are third, because they failed to pick up a bonus point last week, so they are third, but they're at home to Scarlets next week. Zebre are dead last in 16th, none from 3. They're at home to Glasgow, so they're going to pick up a win at some point in the season, but away to Leinster is not the time they're going to get that done. The next one, Glasgow and the Lions, ends up being a pretty bloody close game. Like, there weren't many losing bonus points this week. I think that's the only one. And the Lions pick it up. It's just the one try. And to be fair, I only saw the highlights, but that try seemed to be a pretty... I mean, I always give it to the ref that they have a better view of it than you and I, right? And they didn't show much of it in the highlights. Like, sometimes you and I look at stuff from our TVs and our couches and we say, man, it looks like he's got that wrong. But you've all seen it. Like, sometimes you'll see, his foot in touch from the camera angle we're looking from, and then they'll show you another camera angle and his foot will be, not in touch. So the pictures we get can be a bit deceiving. I always feel like the ref's got the best view of anyone. So the ref saw Batty's try and it was a try. The highlights package, like I saw, only really showed it from I don't think they showed it at a really close angle, but the ref was right there. So if anyone saw it, I'm assuming it was the ref, but man, that was lucky. If it touched the line, it barely just touched the line, but yeah, very close. Flying start though to Glasgow. A few games this week had tries kind of, within the first few minutes. But yeah, Glasgow's one was included, so good try for them. Looked like maybe it's going to be a long day at the office for the Lions, but they came back to it. Glasgow got a penalty. They should have probably had a second try on like 15 minutes when they had numbers out wide, but I think Dempsey took the ball into contact rather than spinning it from the highlights. But yeah, they had a 10 points to 3 lead. It was 10-6 at halftime. It was 10-0 until about like the 10-9 until about the 70th minute, and then it finishes 13-9, so they at least put it beyond a kick, with 10 minutes to go. So Lions had to score a try, but couldn't get it done. There were a bit of handbags at the death, which is kind of often the way it is when the games are this close, but yeah, pretty close game, man. I mean, Glasgow edged the position and territory 55-45. They got the clean break 6-0. They got defenders beaten 20-4. Run meters 364 to 193. But the scoreboard tells you it was kind of closer than all that. Penalties conceded, though. Glasgow guilty 13-6. So on the wrong side of the referee's whistle. Maybe it was the forwards. I mean, from the highlights, the Lions scrum still looks to be operating pretty well, which has been kind of the one bright spot of their losses is that their forwards still seem to front up pretty well, but some of the backs just don't be, like Moxwane got like no ball again. You see what he had, like 2 carries or something, not getting any ball, the same as it was last week. So yeah, but disappointing. But Forbes for Glasgow, 72 run meters, 2 clean breaks, 2 defenders beaten. Wilson and Darge, I think, both had like 9 from 9 tackles, so good shift from the Lucies. Ordendale had 8 out of 8 tackles, 41 run meters, so kind of good shift from him in the midfield. But yeah, losing bonus point is all they've got to show for that one. And interestingly, Viljoen was the guy playing 10. I don't think I've ever seen him play 10 before. Seen him play in the midfield, seen him play fullback, so he can goal kick as well, apparently, because he's the guy who kicks the 3 penalties for the Lions. So there you go, learn something every day. Glasgow are 2-1. They're 4th, which is actually not bad. They are away to Zebre, and again with the Scottish and Italian teams being in the same conference, that's actually a pretty important one for Glasgow to get a job done. And the Lions are away to Ulster. Remember, Ulster's unbeaten, so that's going to be a tough ask. Just look at Benetton's result. But then again, stranger things have happened. We've got an away win on this board, which was kind of unexpected later on. But anyway. What other games did we watch? The next one, Edinburgh and the Stormers. This is the last one that I watched kind of in full. I probably saw the result because I didn't watch it live. But I wanted to watch Edinburgh. I didn't think I'd see because Edinburgh had a cracker last week where they kind of let it go at the death. And I was thinking this will be an interesting one to see how they go. And it's such a weird game. I mean, Edinburgh's wearing that bright orange jersey, which was a bit different anyway. I mean, I guess it goes with the logo. But, I mean, look at the tries in this game. 3 minutes, 6 minutes, and 9 minutes. So you got 3 tries within the first 10 minutes. And then there's one kind of towards the end of the second half. So you're thinking this game's going to be like 55-40 or, you know, something stupid. At least like 35-32. Nah, all the points in the first half and then nothing doing. What an absolutely weird game. At least there's no jersey clash. That was one of the notes I wrote when I saw that Edinburgh jersey. Had I seen that jersey before? Either way, it was striking. Darcy Graham's the guy who gets the first one, like I mentioned. Like, cracking start to the game. Stormers kind of shot up out of line and paid for it. They created all kinds of space for the Edinburgh guys to kind of cut them to bits. Velikot got one that was... Van der Vault set up both of them, really. So 14-0 early. It's looking like it's going to be a horrendous day for the Stormers. But, yeah, Galant got one on 8 or 9 minutes. So bonkers is the note I wrote. It was just crazy. 3 tries early, 14-7. And I wrote, because I'd watched, you know, the start of those 2 games where it was kind of a bit slow. And I was like, I'm loving the teams just chucking it about. They were just spinning everything. It was kind of crazy. There were some mauls and there were some scrums in there too. You know, of course, you gotta have a bit of everything. But by 33 minutes, it was level at 20-20. Halftime, it's 20-20. There were no points scored. The second half becomes the arm wrestle. So well, the other games kind of tended to pick up a bit of speed as the games went on. This game was kind of the flip side. It was just much tighter. The wide ball was being shut down. Like, Edinburgh was spinning it wide and ended up going backwards. Like, eventually they had to decide, like, right, let's just get out of here because we're not going forward. I mean, at the end of the game, I think the Stormers missed the drop goal at the death. Both sides had missed penalties. Van der Vault and Spiel both missed ones in the second half, which would have been match winners. But yeah, the kicks were just getting more pay. I don't blame them. Like, they were trying. And after like 6 or 7 phases of being on the halfway line and getting towards your own kind of 22, you need to get out of Dodge. So, yeah, kind of crazy game. But yeah, possession finishes 66-34, territory 53-47. So that kind of tells the story. Like, Edinburgh trying to chuck it around in the second half, but Stormers' defensive wall just holding. Clean breaks 4 apiece. Defenders beaten though is 31-13. That's a crazy number. Graham gets 3 of them. 2 clean breaks, 83 metres with his try. Rus has a try assists, which was a thing of beauty as well. 15 from 15 tackles from him, so he's kind of living up to the hype, which is pleasing to see. Penalty count's pretty close, 10-11. Stormers conceding 1 more, so not a heck of a lot in it in terms of the discipline, but tackles 180-70. Usually if a team makes 180 tackles, they've probably conceded more penalties, but no, they kept the discipline pretty good. So, yeah, crazy game Finishes 20 points apiece. If you're an Edinburgh fan, I don't know how you're feeling. That's 2 weeks you've kind of gone out to a lead and then been run down. So a win, a loss, and a draw for them. They are in 5th. They are home to the Bulls, which could be an interesting one. And the Stormers are no wins, a draw, and 2 losses. They are 15th. They're one of only 2 winless teams, I believe, and they are away to the Dragons this week. Now, speaking of the Dragons, like they weren't supposed to get a win here, right? 35 points to 22. I wish I had watched this game. Oh my Lord, what happened here? I mean, after pushing Leinster really close at home last week, they said they hadn't beaten Connacht for some years in Galway. But they managed to get it done. What a performance. I mean, I have seen the highlights, of course. There's tries to Holmes, who gets 2. I think it's Jordan Williams, right? 47 minutes for him. And Dogia, the Fijian, gets 1 for the Dragons. And it's Hansen and Fitzgerald for Connacht. But, man, bonus point, away win in Ireland. Tough ask, but, man, they got it done. My notes were kind of like, it was pretty back and forth early. The penalties were ticking over the scoreboard early on. I think it was 6-0. Cardiff was kind of radar. I think he did miss 1, but he was pretty accurate with the boot early. Holmes' try was a thing of beauty. The Dragons kick and regather. Holmes went over in the corner. Dragons did get a yellow card though. They conceded a few more penalties, so it ends up being 12 points to 8. 2 penalties they concede during the yellow card. Kind of a different tact from Ulster, where Connacht seemed to be pretty content to keep the scoreboard ticking over, whereas Ulster in their game always wanted the maul, eh? So different. Jordan Williams gets his second try. Gets the second try. He made the first one. Just gas. Just absolute gas. There's no kind of substitute for that, eh? 15 points to 12. They go back in the lead. They did get 1 as well for the forwards after being all the backs. That's Dogia. So couldn't be all the joy to the backs. Mac Hansen's dancing feet was a bit of a highlight as well for his try. He's kind of always had that about his game. And then Fitzgerald won at the end, maybe puts the game in a little bit of doubt. But then Dragons kick a penalty to kind of put it back to a 3-score game, so they were never going to get back into it. So, yeah, man, what a win. 35-22. That's impressive. That's impressive. That's 2. I mean, I know last week's one was a loss, but that's 2 pretty good results for Dragons on the bounce, man, against 2 of the tougher teams in the competition. So, yeah, all power to them. They seem to be doing really well. Very entertaining team. I mean, I know last week's was, as I said, a kind of a bit of a grind in terms of the scoreboard, not really ticking over, but, man, you can't complain about these guys entertaining in this one. Stats, possession was pretty close, 53-47, territory 54-46, so Connacht edging it, but not a heck of a lot. Tackling percentage, man, Dragons 91, huge numbers. Clean breaks 3-5 with the Dragons having more. Knock-ons, Connacht seemingly a bit guilty of some poor hands, 12-6, so double that of the Dragons guys. I'm assuming that was a bit of defensive pressure making that happen as well. Jordan Williams, 110 run meters, 2 clean breaks, 2 defenders beaten. Heffernan makes 16 out of 17 tackles in a losing effort, but yeah, crazy game. Connacht are now 1-2, so they're in 12th. So not the ideal start to the season for them. The Dragons are also 1-2, but they are in 8th, so they've picked up a bonus point here for their win and a bonus point last week in a losing effort. So they're at home to the Stormers next week, which could be interesting. Like Stormers seemingly kind of tracking all right, and Dragons doing maybe better than people predicted. So yeah, Connacht doesn't get any easier away to Munster, who haven't dropped a result yet. So, yep. The Bulls and their game against Cardiff, 29 points to 19. That's a pretty bloody good way to get your account underway. Only the 2 tries to them, 1 to Lowe and 1 to Tumware. Lowe's one was something else. It's like, I'm going to tap it from 5 meters out and you try and stop me. And usually teams stop the first guy, right? Maybe it's a phase or 2 later. Nah, he went straight over. And then Tumware's one was kind of a bit of individual brilliance, kind of kicking through from turnover ball and regathering it and showing some really good skills. 1 to Screech for Cardiff. Like, Cardiff were in front kind of comfortably. And I could kind of feel the commentary team seemingly getting a bit more and more incredulous that they were going to lose this one, essentially, Cardiff. But yeah, it was a good crowd. Early lead for Cardiff, good pressure. Seb Davis got yellow carded though. I think that one was kind of was it a no arms tackle? But despite the man down, they had the pressure. They went 8 phases. Got a nice try, so it was 13-0. In the scheme of things, is a pretty good lead. Halftime 16-3, but then seemingly the Bulls figure things out. Second half, like I mentioned, that low tap from 5 meters, the Tumway one from loose ball, and the Bulls just get dominant at the breakdown, seemingly from what little I watched of the game. But yeah, man, 29 points to 19. Cardiff don't even get close enough for a bonus point, which is pretty brutal when you're 13-0 up to go down 29-19. But credit to the Bulls, whatever they said at halftime. That worked a treat. Cardiff finished with more possession, more territory, 53 and 52% respectively. It's not huge dominance, kind of normal stuff. Bulls go get more clean breaks, 4-2. Run meters is pretty tight, 381, 377. Cardiff set piece seemed to struggle a wee bit from what I could see from the stats anyway. The Bulls tackle at 93%, which is huge. Penalty counts pretty even, 13-14. The Bulls conceding one more, but I think kind of the lion's share of those maybe in the second half. From what I saw anyway at the breakdown stuff, it just seemed to be the Bulls were all over the Cardiff attackers. So, yeah, good win for the Bulls. The Bulls are now 1-2, so they're in 14th, so still a wee bit of coming back. Remember, they started the season with 2 pretty tough trips away. So they've got one more game away from home before they can finally get a break and then get back home for a while. So that will be a more true test of the season. Cardiff are also 1-2. They are in 9th. Cardiff are home to the Sharks next week. And the Bulls are away to Edinburgh. The last one, which was the one, again, I didn't watch this. Didn't Munster send like kind of a less than full strength outfit to play Scarlets? And it's 43-13. Holy smokes. That's a hiding. That's a hiding, man. Goodness me. I like that Munster jersey, to be fair. The black one, something about me being a Kiwi. The black jerseys do appeal, but that one was pretty sweet. 43-13. Flying start, man. O'Sullivan gets one on 4 minutes. Then it's Liam Coombs. I think it's the first time I've seen him play. When I think Coombs, I'm usually thinking Gavin. 23 and 59-minute tries for him. Nash gets one on 36. He creates one of the ones for Coombs as well. Lochman gets one on 44, and then Clutter gets one on 62. So it's a bunch of tries for Munster. Just the one, which is also a bit of a peach for Johnny McNichol. But man, when you're looking at that many tries from Munster and you just get the one at home, pretty brutal for the kind of Scarlets home faithful. I mean, that one where Nash just beat Steph Effens one-on-one and then set it up for Coombs was that was just brutal for Steph Effens. But what a try for Munster. That was proper exciting stuff. I mean, 17-3 down. Scarlets did need some points, and that's when they got the try through McNichol. So it's kind of like you're losing the game. Can you get back into it? They do. So it's like 22-13 half time, which is still not ideal, but that's not insurmountable. But they don't score any points in the second half. It really was nice to see Munster spin the ball. Like, there's been times I've watched Munster, I think was it last week, where they only scored tries through their forwards. And yet this week you've got the likes of Nash just tearing it down the wing, throwing an inside ball as he beats defenders and stuff. So, yeah, I've always been a little bit critical of Larkham as well, because I've mentioned it to many people that when he coached the Brumbies down here in Super Rugby, they were a maul team and very little else. They had such little attack about their game. But if he had a hand in that 43-13 win, which I'm sure he did, give the credit where it's due, because they actually spun it and looked pretty good. I mean, even I wasn't ready for that Jack O'Donoghue kick try assist. Like, Lucy shouldn't be doing that, man. He got a line break. I think it was Coombs who took it one-handed, right? Like, skill level madness stuff. Possession 51-49, territory 54-46 to Scarlets, but run meters 379-240 to Munster. Defenders beaten 20-11 to Munster. Clean breaks 6-2 to Munster. Penalties conceded, interestingly, 15-8 against Munster. So what were they doing wrong? Was it set piece? Rogers was pretty quiet, interestingly, after having a big week last week. Yeah, Shingler had 16 out of 17 tackles, which is a good shift. But Nash, a try assist. Coombs, 2 tries. All the Munster Lucies, I think, cracked 20 plus run meters. So, yeah. Munster are top of the log, 3 from 3, looking the business. They are home to Connacht next week, which will always be a pretty tough game with those kind of provincial rivals. For Scarlets, away to Leinster, just what you need on the back of a game, 43-13 against Munster. So yeah, like I said, guys, interesting one where the away teams actually had a wee bit more success. I've always been saying that I think the South African teams will kind of come into it. I was expecting it to be more as we get them home, but I think they performed pretty well this week. The Welsh teams maybe and the Italian teams didn't have their best weeks, that's for sure. But there will be weeks like that. There will be weeks when all the teams from one area lose or all the teams from one area win. I mean, so far, though, Ulster, Munster and Leinster, none of them have lost the game yet, so they are kind of looking the business. But yeah, kind of pleasing stuff. Not all predictable. A few away wins. Interestingly, not so many close games though. With Glasgow and the Lions one, the only one that could have been finished with a score at the death. Every other game by the time the clock went into the red was already done and dusted. So yeah, I've gone on for far too long, guys. You let me know your thoughts. How do you think things are playing out in the URC after 3 rounds? And yeah, I'll talk to you guys again soon. See you later.